Hello, we've been working on a SuperBeta SL-HF900 when we required a replacement STK5441 power supply hybrid module. Well, that's arrived today, so let's have a look at it first, make sure it looks like a genuine part, and then install it in the machine. So here it is. Now I've had some fake parts, or seen a fake part in the past that was installed in a machine that was sent to me. So I've become very nervous about these things. So just make sure it doesn't look like the part number has been scratched off. Okay, there are these marks which I now realise do appear on the original ones as well. So I'm not too worried about that. Let's have a close look at the part number. And it's got the correct markings on the back, I think. Okay, I think that's all looking very promising. There's no evidence of those markings having been altered. The code in the bottom right, which you always assume to be a date code, is not a date code. Never understood what it is, but whatever it is, it doesn't mean terribly much, so let's not worry about that. And round the back, well, there's some print, albeit it's rather faint. Okay, I'm happy enough to install that in the machine and see what it does. Here is the original part screwed onto this heatsink, and is a board which connects it up. So when I undo those screws, the whole thing will come free. And this was a test wire I'd fitted to a 9-volt line, which is the fault. We do not have 9 volts. Okay. Here is the defective part removed and the PCB all cleaned up. Now we can refit the new one and apply some heatsink compound, of course, to this face and fit it to the heatsink. Viewers to my channel will know that I'd had to order in another STK5441 because when I ordered 2 for my last SuperBeta machine, I mislaid one. And guess what I've just found? I found my spare now, and that is of the same type as the one that did work. So I slightly annoyed with myself, but it also looks extremely similar to the one I've just installed, so that should be a good part, and I'm going to keep that somewhere safe and properly labelled up this time. Right, heatsink compound to apply to, I'll clean this gunge off and apply new heatsink compound to the heatsink and regulator, and we can see then what faults we have on the machine, because I think the chances of it working are extremely small. Okay, we're ready for the great switch on with the new regulator. There's no guarantee that the front loading assembly's been correctly assembled, because though I did copy what 12-volt vid said we should do, it's not been powered yet. We know the display's a bit dim in places. There's various bits of glue and stuff going on here, but let's power it up and see what we get. So dim display, that's normal. Switch this on, click, it goes, and we now have the power on LED. So that's all encouraging. Okay, it was a little bit clunky going in, but it basically worked. Oh, good. Oh, that's good progress. Let's just see if we can fast forward and rewind. I need to get the front panel. No, I'm regretting that. I don't think we'll fit the front panel until we know we're ready to, because there's a lot of messing about with this damaged section. I have a remote control. I also have an NTSC test tape. Power. Good. Fast forward. Started okay, then the head stopped. Isn't the head supposed to be spinning? Try play. The head's not spinning. Is it sort of locked in place? Yes. So what's going on? The Hall effect sensor's failed, I should think. I can't stop it for some reason. It's playing, but the head's not spinning, and it's ignoring the remote control now. So we almost certainly have a bad Hall effect sensor. Some information on these 4-pin Hall effect sensors that are used in the head drum of Sony Beta video recorders. Not just this model, but nearly all Sony Beta video recorders have this kind of sensor. And it was held in place with some glue and unfortunately that glue attracts moisture from the air and goes conductive. So you can clean the glue off. Whether that would have the desired effect of fixing this fault, I've never had much luck with it. It might make it better, but it tends not to completely solve the problem. I find it's best to replace the sensor. And what I've done in the past is raided these from other equipment, typically the reel table of scrap Sony Beta video recorders that have two of these, one for each of the reels. Be careful because they're not always mounted the same way round. The way it should be is that when it's fitted to the drum motor, you should be able to see a circle embossed, if you like, in the plastic, but it's quite small, quite hard to see on some of them. Now, the markings on the back tend to be either blank or it might say 3G, 3J, 3H, 3I. I don't know what those markings mean. Now, I have in the past raided these off scrap machines, but now I've found a source for these. They're not expensive. I'll provide information in the details below so you can buy these in. And I've got plenty here. This will keep me going for many Beta video recorders. So if we don't have much luck cleaning the glue off, I'll change this. The approved route, of course, the proper route for changing this would be to take the whole head drum out. Means quite a lot of disturbance of the mechanism, and there's also a risk of smashing the heads. You've got to be really careful taking the drum out. So I don't do it that way anymore. I've found there's a way of fitting this in situ, so there's a minimum disturbance to the machine. The results may not look quite so pretty, but it's safer for the machine. And I've had a machine that was sent to me once by somebody who said, you might as well have this as spares, he says, because I was trying to change the Hall effect sensor and I smashed the heads. So it's a real hazard taking the drum out. So let's see if my alternative route would be a better way forward. Having removed the cover, we can now get access to the drum motor here. And actually that seemed a bit stuck, which is odd. Why was it stuck when there wasn't power applied? So that's slightly concerning. And the Hall effect sensor is here. I'll get you set up on the microscope to see that. Right, so we're looking at the Hall effect sensor there on the edge of the drum motor. So if I just move you across, you can see the center of the drum motor there, and I'm going to undo that nut in a moment, and then we'll be able to get to this. Now, the approved way of doing this, the way other people do it, is to take the whole drum assembly out of the chassis. But there are certain risks associated with that, and I don't want to do it. So I am going to, well, first you could say just cut the gunge off here. Okay, that's always something that's worth a try, is get the gunge off this glue that is hygroscopic. I'm not sure what the word is. There we go. Kind of needed to do both sides at the same time. And there it is in all its glorious gunginess. Considering how long Sony were building these machines, you can't help but think they must have known they had this problem, and yet they carried on using this sensor with glue on it that did that. So there's a case for maybe just trying to scrape away the glue here and see if it works. Right, here we are. I've got this sort of ident notch on one end, and when I have raided them off these scrap reel tables in the past, I've just made sure that I fit the Hall effect sensor with that circle the same way round, in this case sticking up. And the way I tend to replace them is simply to cut the wires here and solder the replacement on. Should I clean it up and try again, or should I just replace it? I've never had any luck with making them work after cleaning these pins, but maybe I will try it just this once. What do you think? Do you think that's better? It might be worth a shot, mightn't it? Let's put the drum back together again. Okay, so I've not reassembled anything. I've just put that back on and not put the cover back on, not refitted all the screws or the cabinet. We'll just see if it spins the head. There's a play button there, so we can just see what happens when we power it up. And press play. No, the drum is not spinning. And it's probably locked. Yeah, it feels locked. Oh, now it spins. Alright, in that case, maybe we'll pop a tape in and just see if we can get it to play. Sorry, you missed a bit of that, but the drum felt locked. I turned it and then it started spinning normally. This tape does not have a recording, so I will eject the tape. Something a little bit odd there. It tried to start loading before the tape was in. Mind you, it's on its side, which isn't ideal. No, it's not ideal. I think the front loading isn't set up quite right, or it's struggling with being on its side. Oh, that's properly locked down now. Oh, that's better. Right, try play. Beta 1, it's detected as a Beta 1 tape. It seems to be playing according to the VU meters. Okay, where's stop? I'll hook it up to the monitor, see what we've got. Switch it on, press play. Not sure the tracking control is at the minute. And it's running! Whether the picture's as good as it should be, I don't know. I'm seeing a certain amount of sort of picture crushing. It looks a bit capacitor-y. Yeah, the picture's not still. There's a slight waviness to it, depending on content. Yeah, that's not quite right. See the lines there are bent? You may not be able to see it, but it's not quite right. Okay, so we almost certainly have capacitor issues somewhere, but the machine's fundamentally running well enough. I will, at this point, reassemble the front, I think, because anything we have wrong with it is not concerned with the front panel. So I can go into battle with sorting out this slightly damaged PCB at the top here. Okay, so we've made some good progress, but where are my priorities? Well, I'll tell you my first priority to repair, I think, is actually the front loader problem. And I think what's going on is the cassette is jamming a little bit on the way in and thereby triggering the switch, which makes it think that the cassette is fully in and ready to go in. And the reason I need to do that is because I want to get this sorted so that I can refit the front panel and thereby make this front stable and not subject to any more damage, because I'm a bit worried about leaving it in this state while I'm doing a lot of work on the machine. So that will be the first thing I try to repair. But before I do that, I want to do one little bit of fault finding. You know, we have this problem that the picture's not right. Well, a great way of debugging problems with video recorders of all formats is, if you've got a playback picture problem, the first thing you do is get the machine into E to E mode, electrical to electrical video in going to out, and see if the problem applies to that. If it does, it tells you that it's in the video processing circuit, probably quite close to the outputs. And if it doesn't, it tells you it's in a video processing circuit associated with the deck playback, which is almost certainly the case here. But we need to prove it. So I am feeding an NTSC composite video input to this machine from my time-based corrector. My time-based correctors, I've got it configured for NTSC mode. And we have composite video out there going into the video recorder, and we just switch this on and select test select. So that's given us the output. So let's just see what that looks like. I'll have to find a way to whatever button I need to press in order to select that particular input. I think that's the input there. Let's have a look at the back. These, I believe, are both outputs. My Japanese isn't very good. That's output 1, output 2, I think, and that's input. So we need to select that input as opposed to tuner or anything else. I'll just press play for a moment and we'll just demonstrate the problem we're seeing. We're not getting a picture. What we're doing wrong. It seems to ignore the remote control or any other inputs sometimes. So there's a fault. Oh, the head's not spinning again. We've got that problem. So there's another one of our faults we need to fix, is that the head spins only when it feels like it. That's a bit better. And the picture is kind of crushed. You can see that there's lots of lines that shouldn't be across the picture there, and some of the verticals are not good either. Okay, stop that. Now we need, this is on channel 21 it says, we need it to go to the input. Don't know how to do that. What button's it going to be? Oh, this is set to channel. Got that LED there, I don't know if you can see that. The jog and shuttle is set to channel instead of jog and shuttle. The top channel, the left, is not going all the way to 0, it's jamming on something. So we have a problem with that slider control. So my bright idea of feeding a video input and looking at that is not working out so well. Had an incorrect setting, so on the time-based corrector I was plugged into an input instead of an output. So now we're looking at, as far as I can tell, that's a good clean signal. So the problem, as I suspected would be the case, is with the video playback circuitry, which is giving this, you see these streaks of white across the highlights? I'll see if I can zoom you in. So can you see to the right of the highlight here there's streaking, and all along here there's artifacts being dragged across the image. All along here there's sort of highlights are streaking across, and here you can see this vertical is all wibbly wobbly. I now know how to use a jog and shuttle. So this vertical here is not vertical at all, it's a horrible shape. I only have this one NTSC beta tape, but I am sure that the quality of this tape is fine. And if I hit stop, our colour bars look fine. So there's a problem with the playback circuitry, but it's really quite close to working, isn't it? We have a slight mistiming on the front loading. We have intermittent operation of the drum motor, for which I do have another Hall effect sensor. Crushed sort of picture from video playback. And of course at some point I'm going to have to try to modify the supply voltage to 110 volts or even 240 volts if I can. So we have some more work to do, but it's coming along. I've just dug out from here this piece of broken plastic from the front panel, which was stopping the slider from going fully left. So that's another small thing fixed. Now, since I've cleaned the pins on the Hall effect sensor of this drum motor, it's still causing me a problem. It still sometimes doesn't work. So I need to change the Hall effect sensor. And I have some of these. I've ordered some in. It took me a while to realise that there is an ident mark on these. Particular ones I bought here, the ident mark's very faint, and I wasn't quite sure which way around it goes. But in this application, there's a small circle set into the plastic, and that's to be on the top on this PCB. But note that on the real drive, at least one of the components is mounted the other way around. So looking down on the original part, having taken the top of the motor off again, so what we need to do is cut these pins fairly close to the body of the original Hall effect sensor, and this is the part we're going to be installing in its place. Now, slight difficulty being that most cutters just won't get in there. I'm going to lift the old one up and hopefully get in there enough to cut the original leads. Okay, I've shortened the leads on the new one. Okay, I'm fairly happy that that's soldered up. All those 4 pins are firmly soldered. The only thing that I'm a little less happy about is that if there was a huge impact to this machine, that there might be a chance of something touching something else. Don't really think so, but to be on the safe side, I'll insert a little bit of tape between those pins to make sure that nothing can ever touch anything it shouldn't. Okay, I'm fairly happy that nothing's going to touch anything it shouldn't touch there, so I can reassemble the top of the motor and test it. Okay, let's try it now then with the new Hall effect sensor. I'm quite confident that it should work. Yep, worked straight away. Just got the picture quality problem that we had before. Let's test. Rewind, fast forward, that's all looking good. Right, so we just have a possible problem with the front loading mechanism, but to be honest it's not that bad. It is kind of working, and the picture quality, which is the real serious issue to solve next. While I was reassembling this front panel and sorting out some of the cosmetics, I had to work these switches, and I found this switch, which is high band on off. And it turns out this is not just in record, but in play as well. So when I was playing back the tape here, which is an NTSC speed 1, not high band recording, this switch was incorrectly set to high band on, and so the picture was awful. It doesn't detect whether it's a high band recording and set itself up automatically. So with high band on, playing back our tape, gave a strangely sort of washed out picture with lots of streaks and things going on that shouldn't be there. But the high band off, and we have a perfect picture. So there wasn't a fault with the machine, it was user error. So we still have an issue that the front loading mechanism is a little bit clunky. But it is working. Well, that's worked out really well. I've sorted out a lot of the cosmetics. The front loading could be better, but it is still workable. The mains voltage is set to 100 volts for Japanese mains, and that's not ideal. I'd like to convert it to at least 110 volts, which is what my transformers are, or maybe even 230, 240, but I think that would carry a risk. If I got that wrong, there could be some damage. But all in all, really delighted with the way this machine's worked out. I'll do plenty more content on audio and video technology in the near future. Bye for now.